Ouija board. True scary stories. Story number 1. The unwanted visitor. Late one night, a group of friends gathered to use a Ouija board for fun. They made contact with a spirit who claimed to be a lost soul seeking help. After several sessions, they decided to stop. However, the spirit became hostile and started causing eerie events in their homes, leaving them terrified and desperate for help. Story number 2. The warning. A curious teenager decided to play with a Ouija board alone. When she asked the board about her future, it spelled out, danger. Brushing it off as a joke, she continued. That night, she narrowly escaped a dangerous situation, realizing the Ouija board had given her a chilling warning. Story number 3. The haunting continues. A family attempted to contact a deceased loved one through a Ouija board. Instead, they unknowingly invited a malevolent entity into their home. Strange occurrences escalated to physical harm, forcing them to seek the help of paranormal experts to banish the spirit. Story number 4. The unfinished session. During a Ouija session at a haunted location, a group lost contact with the spirit abruptly. Disturbed, they left the board and departed. Over the next few days, each participant received a message from the spirit, demanding they return and finish the interrupted session, leaving them terrified. Story number 5. The ghostly pact. A group of friends made a pact with a spirit through a Ouija board, asking for riches and success in exchange for their souls. Strangely, their lives improved, but their wealth came at a price. One by one, they mysteriously disappeared, fulfilling the dark bargain they had unwittingly made. Story number 6. The forgotten warning. A group of friends used a Ouija board in an old, abandoned house. They made contact with a spirit who warned them to leave immediately. Ignoring the advice, they continued, and the spirit grew increasingly agitated. Suddenly, the lights went out, and they heard chilling whispers all around them. Story number 7. The malevolent message. Two siblings tried communicating with the spirit of their deceased grandmother using a Ouija board. They received messages that seemed to be from her at first, but then the messages turned dark and sinister. It was as if something else had taken control, leaving them deeply disturbed. Story number 8. The persistent entity. A woman bought a vintage Ouija board at an antique shop. Despite multiple attempts to dispose of it, it kept reappearing in her home. Strange occurrences and sightings of a shadowy figure became a daily ordeal, and she couldn't escape the board's eerie influence. Story number 9. The house's dark past. A family moved into a historic house and found a Ouija board hidden in the attic. Curious, they decided to use it. During the session, they learned about the house's grim history, including a series of tragic deaths that occurred within its walls. Soon, they experienced unexplained phenomena, making them question their decision to stay. Story number 10. The haunting connection. A group of friends conducted a Ouija session in a graveyard. They established contact with a spirit who claimed to be a murder victim seeking justice. Intrigued, they investigated the case and discovered startling evidence that helped solve the long-forgotten crime, but it came at a cost as the spirit continued to haunt them. Story number 11. The cursed keepsake. A family inherited an antique Ouija board from a distant relative. They displayed it in their living room as a conversation piece. Soon, they began experiencing strange events in their home, from objects moving on their own to mysterious whispers echoing through the house. It seemed the board brought an unwelcome presence into their lives. Story number 12. The lost child. A grieving mother, desperate to communicate with her deceased child, used a Ouija board. She believed she had made contact with her child's spirit, but as time passed, the spirit's messages turned sinister. It became clear that something malevolent had taken advantage of her vulnerability. Story number 13. The Crossroads Bargain. A group of friends gathered at a crossroads to use a Ouija board. They made contact with a mysterious entity promising them fame and fortune in exchange for a grave favor. As their lives improved, they realized the dark price they'd paid and struggled to break the curse. Story number 14. The Mysterious Manuscript. A scholar discovered an ancient manuscript detailing Ouija board rituals and decided to recreate them. With each session, they encountered different spirits, some benevolent, others malevolent. The scholar's obsession with the board led to their eventual isolation and descent into madness. Story number 15. The Phantom Playmate. A young child began using a Ouija board to communicate with what they believed was an imaginary friend. However, the friend turned out to be a vengeful spirit who convinced the child to carry out disturbing acts. The family grew increasingly concerned as their child's behavior became more erratic. Story number 16. The time-traveling Ouija. A group of friends experimented with a Ouija board in an old, abandoned house. To their astonishment, they made contact with a spirit claiming to be from the past. As they continued their sessions, they received messages that seemed to predict future events, leaving them deeply unsettled and questioning the nature of time itself. Story number 17. The Vengeful Spirit. A woman used a Ouija board to contact her deceased ex-husband, hoping to find closure. The board seemed to provide comforting messages at first, but it soon revealed dark secrets about his past. The spirit grew hostile, blaming her for his death and vowing to haunt her until she suffered as he had. Story number 18. The Demonic Encounter. A group of friends attempted to contact a friendly spirit using a homemade Ouija board. Instead, they unwittingly summoned a malevolent demon that terrorized them. They sought help from a paranormal expert who performed an exorcism, but the haunting memories lingered. Story number 19. The Haunted Antique Shop. A curious antique shop owner acquired a vintage Ouija board and displayed it in her store. Strange phenomena started happening, from objects mysteriously rearranging themselves to eerie whispers echoing at night. It appeared that the board's dark history had attached itself to the shop. Story number 20. The Mysterious Numbers. A teenager used a Ouija board alone and asked if it could reveal winning lottery numbers. The board provided a series of numbers, which the teen decided to play. To their shock, the numbers turned out to be winning combinations, leading to unimaginable wealth. However, they soon realized that the source of these numbers was anything but ordinary. Story number 21. The Cursed Family Heirloom. A family passed down a Ouija board as a cherished heirloom for generations. Each family member who possessed it experienced a series of tragedies and misfortunes. It seemed that the board carried a dark curse that haunted anyone who came into contact with it. Story number 22. The Ouija Experiment. A group of university students conducted a scientific experiment using a Ouija board to test the existence of spirits. Initially, they believed they were in control, but the board began spelling out detailed information about their personal lives, proving that they were not alone in the room. Story number 23. The Ghostly Messenger. A woman used a Ouija board in hopes of communicating with her deceased sister. They had a close bond, and she desperately missed her sibling. During the session, the board spelled out comforting messages and shared memories only her sister could know, providing the closure she needed. Story number 24. The Phantom Finger. Two friends decided to use a Ouija board in a dimly lit room. As they asked questions, they noticed an unseen presence moving the planchette. However, upon closer inspection, they realized none of them were touching it. They quickly ended the session, shaken by the inexplicable phenomenon. Story number 25. The Lost Soul's Plea. In an old, abandoned asylum, a group of ghost hunters used a Ouija board to make contact with spirits. They encountered a tormented soul who pleaded for help to cross over to the afterlife. As they tried to assist, they unleashed a torrent of paranormal activity that left them terrified and questioning their decision. Story number 26. The Mysterious Murders. A detective investigating a series of unsolved murders turned to a Ouija board as a last resort for clues. During the session, the board spelled out the names of the victims and cryptic messages. Soon after, the detective found evidence that helped solve the crimes, but the dark presence from the board continued to haunt them. Story number 27. The Mirror Portal. A group of friends used a Ouija board in front of an antique mirror. They made contact with a malevolent entity that seemed to materialize in the mirror's reflection. Over time, the entity gained more power and began to influence their actions, leading to a terrifying showdown. Story number 28. The Ouija Club. A club of paranormal enthusiasts used a Ouija board in a haunted location every week. As they made contact with various spirits, they began to experience mysterious injuries, illnesses, and accidents. It appeared that the spirits they were communicating with were becoming increasingly hostile. Story number 29. The Vanishing Act. A man used a Ouija board to contact his long-lost twin brother who had disappeared years ago. During the session, he received a message leading him to a hidden room in his own house. Inside, he discovered his brother's lifeless body, surrounded by eerie symbols and candles. Story number 30. The Haunting Symphony. A group of musicians attempted to contact a famous composer from the past using a Ouija board to seek inspiration. They believed they had successfully made contact, and the composer's music began to flow through them. However, as they played, they realized they were creating a terrifying symphony of darkness. The end.